Discover how one cashier's incredible stand exposed a rude CEO and inspired life-changing change. The bell above the entrance to Maple Grocers chimed softly as another customer stepped inside. Clara, a 20-something cashier, stood poised behind the register, her heart racing amid the hustle and bustle of the store. It was an ordinary summer Tuesday in Maplewood, where the sun streamed through large windows, bathing the aisles in warmth and light. Clara often loved her job, where she could share small talk and kind smiles with regulars. But today felt different. An unsettling tension hung in the air, that is when he walked in Greg, the new CEO with an air of arrogance. Clara had heard whispers he'd be visiting, but seeing him in the flesh sent a shiver up her spine. He strutted through the store, snippets of sneering commentary leaving his lips like acid. "Look at this chaos," he barked as he approached the checkout line heartlessly, narrowing his eyes at Clara. "Why is this taking so long?" Her chest tightened as she fought back tears. But she wouldn't buckle. Her mother, a veteran, had taught her to always stand tall, to demand respect. "We're doing our best, sir," Clara replied, her voice steady. "These customers are simply trying to shop. We all have our challenges." She glanced at the faces of her neighbors, their expressions a mix of disbelief and sympathy. A few people nodded, echoing their agreement, but Greg was unrelenting. "This is embarrassing." "It wouldn't hurt you to pick up the pace," he retorted, loud enough for everyone in line to hear. Clara's heart raced, but rather than retaliate, she took a deep breath. With each word of Greg's, she felt her mother's resilience flood her veins. "We may be a small town, but we deserve respect just like anyone else," she said firmly, the weight of the moment growing thicker. Around her, the energy shifted. An older man whispered, "Good for her." A mother with 2 small children nodded, visibly frustrated. The tension escalated, a palpable charge, as a customer in line instinctively raised their phone and began recording. Clara caught the glimmer of a flash just as she subtly scanned the line. It was as if the air vibrated with connection. She was no longer just one cashier against a towering figure. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The video circulated quickly on social media. Clara felt the wave of attention wash over her, both exhilarating and terrifying. It sparked a conversation far beyond the town square about corporate responsibility and workers' rights. People were rallying around her, sharing their own stories of indignity in the workplace. Clara's heart swelled as she realized the potential power of her voice. Could she inspire change that would reach further than Maplewood? With newfound resolve, she organized a town hall meeting. The details flowed like wildfire. Her mother, who had battled her own demons, showed up, sharing her struggles and resilience. Those raw memories stirred something powerful in the crowd. Yet, dread nestled in Clara's chest when she learned that Greg had caught wind of the meeting and was issuing threats. As Clara adjusted her notes, a fierce determination ignited within her. Standing at the podium, she felt the weight of her community, her mother, and those watching from afar. The stakes were higher than ever. Would she have the courage to confront the very world that sought to silence her? Would the collective heartbeat of Maplewood stand with her? The clock was ticking, and in that charged moment, she knew the future of her town rested on the words she was about to speak. Clara stood at the podium, her heart drumming loudly in her chest. The town hall was packed. Rows of familiar faces were interspersed with strangers who had come to lend their support. She could feel the weight of their hopes and fears pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. Behind her, her mother, radiating pride and strength, sat quietly, her fingers interlaced in prayer. "Thank you all for being here," Clara began, her voice trembling slightly but gaining strength as she continued. I never thought my small moment at Maple Grocers could bring us all together like this. But it has, and that tells me we need to speak out. A buzz rippled through the crowd, the shared recognition sparking hope. Clara took a deep breath, aware that with every word, she had the power to galvanize change. What happened that day wasn't just about me, she continued. It reflected a larger issue, a struggle we all face when those in power decide our worth or undermine our dignity. A murmur of agreement swept through the room. Clara could see heads nodding, fists clenching in solidarity. She felt the energy shift and become electric. Greg may think he is untouchable, she declared, ignoring the instinctive quaver in her voice, but we are the heart of this community. Each one of us deserves respect no matter our job, our pay, or who we are. Applause erupted, echoing like thunder. Clara's hands shook, but she pressed on, emboldened. We cannot let this go unchallenged. We can't let someone dismiss our worth or exploit our labor because we're from a small town. We deserve better. As she spoke, Clara noticed someone slip in at the back of the room, Greg. He stood with his arms crossed, a sneer playing on his lips. It was the moment she had dreaded. Her resolve flickered for a second, but then she remembered her mother's face, the pride shining in her eyes. Greg's threats. Clara continued, her voice lowering slightly, becoming more intimate yet fierce. They're meant to intimidate us, to keep us quiet. But look around you. We want to be silenced. Cheers erupted again. Clara locked eyes with Greg, and for the first time, she saw a flash of uncertainty cross his face. It was empowering. I want to propose that we begin a movement right here, right now, she shouted, her confidence soaring. A collective effort to demand better conditions, fair wages, and to hold those in power accountable. The room erupted in applause and cries of support. Clara felt a swelling of pride and unity that filled the air like a warm embrace. But just then, the atmosphere shifted again. One man stood, trembling with passion. If you go through with this, Greg will retaliate. He is not going to let this slide. His voice trembled, echoing the fear that had lingered in her chest. Clara steadied herself. Then let him. She replied, her voice rising above the doubt. We are stronger together. Fear won't dictate our choices or our futures. We'll stand up for what we believe in, no matter the cost. The applause crescendoed, enveloping her in overwhelming support. Clara realized she was no longer just a cashier, she was a beacon of hope and change. Yet the looming presence of Greg still hovered ominously, like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. As the meeting closed and people began buzzing with excitement, Clara still felt a thread of tension. What steps would they need to take next? Would they be ready to defend their cause or face Greg's backlash? Determined to find answers, Clara scanned the crowd, knowing the fight was only just beginning. Clara felt a swell of determination rise in her chest as the crowd started to disperse, their chatter filling the air like the buzzing of bees. Uncertainty still coiled in her stomach, but she knew one thing, she had to keep this momentum going. This was just the beginning. As she exited the town hall, she found herself surrounded by people filled with excitement and purpose. A local shop owner, Lisa, grabbed her arm, her eyes wide. Clara, you were amazing. We need to meet again and organize this. I can help gather everyone at my cafe tomorrow. It's time we took action. Clara nodded, gratitude blooming inside her. That sounds perfect. If we can get even more people on board, we can really make a difference. Lisa beamed. Let us do it. The whole town needs to know that we're not backing down. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue on the streets of Maplewood. As they walked together, Clara noticed the feeling in the air had shifted. Where once tension had hung over them, now there was hope, a lightness that seemed to lift their spirits. That evening felt surreal as Clara settled onto the couch beside her mother. Her mom, still glowing with pride, wrapped her arm around Clara's shoulders. You did more than stand up today, sweetie. You sparked something in everyone. They believe in you. Clara felt a tear slip down her cheek. But what if Greg retaliates? What if he tries to crush this? Her mother tightened her grip, her voice steadying. Then we crush him first. Weakness is often hidden behind a facade of power. Remember, it's easier to be brave in numbers. Have faith in your friends, your community. Clara breathed deeply, breathing in her mother's strength. There was a fire in her that had long been dormant, waiting for this moment. As the night deepened, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was brewing. She glanced at her phone. She had received a text from Mike, a coworker who had been at the meeting. "We need to talk." "It's about Greg," it read. Her heart raced. What could it be? Ignoring the flutter of anxiety, Clara quickly typed back, arranging to meet him in the small park near Maple Grocers. The next morning, a sea of swirling thoughts filled Clara's mind as she walked briskly to the park. She pictured the avenues they might explore in their fight against Greg, her heart thumping with anticipation. But what would Mike say? Would it be good news or bad? When Clara met Mike, he looked more anxious than usual, his brow furrowed. "Clara, there's something happening at work. Greg's not just threatened, he's planning some serious moves to keep his power. I overheard him talking about making cuts, layoffs." Clara felt her stomach drop. The stakes of their movement had never been higher. "We just can't let that happen, Mike. We can't let him silence us." His eyes were wide with urgency. "Then we need a plan fast. But we'll need to be smart. We have to be ready for the fight of our lives." Clara nodded, adrenaline surging. "Let us gather everyone. We need to hit him where it hurts, not just us, but everyone he affects. It's now or never." As they made their way back, a sense of urgency grasped Clara's heart. She could feel the walls of their world closing in, but she also felt the fire of revolution igniting. Tomorrow could mean everything, but would the town stand behind her? Would they be ready for the challenges ahead? Clara's resolve solidified. They had to act before Greg made his next move. The town of Maplewood was counting on her, and she wouldn't let them down. Clara awoke early the next day, the sunlight pouring through her window. It bathed everything in a soft glow that felt both promising and daunting. She pulled the covers away, her heart pounding in rhythm with her thoughts. There was no room for doubt today. Today was the day they would rally the people of Maplewood. After a quick breakfast, Clara grabbed her notebook and headed out to the cafe. The familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the chatter of locals. With Lisa's cafe bustling, she hoped it would set the right tone for their meeting. As she entered, she was greeted by a warm smile from Lisa, who was arranging chairs. "Everyone's excited, Clara," Lisa exclaimed, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "I've already called a couple of people from the town council. They'll be here too." Clara felt a tingle of hope. "Great. We need all the support we can muster." As the cafe filled, Clara felt the energy shift. Friends and acquaintances chatted fervently, their faces bright with determination. Once everyone settled, Clara stood up, battling a mixture of nerves and excitement. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady. "Yesterday was just the start of something big. We're facing a challenge, yes, but together we can make our voices heard." She could feel the room's attention pulling towards her, and with each word, her confidence grew. She spoke of Greg's plans to cut jobs, the fears of countless families, and how it was crucial they stood together. "This isn't just about me, or us. It's about every single person Greg could impact. We need to show him he can't win this way. We won't back down." Murmurs filled the room. People shared stories of their struggles, families impacted by layoffs, and the weight of uncertainty they felt under Greg's leadership. Clara listened, heart aching at their vulnerability but inspired by their willingness to fight back. Suddenly, an older gentleman stood up, his voice trembling but strong. "I've worked at the store for 30 years. I'll tell you what, I'm not letting some big shot take away my livelihood without a fight. Cheers erupted, and Clara felt tears welling in her eyes. This was it. They were not alone in this battle. The community was rising. Let us make a plan, she urged, adrenaline coursing through her veins as the crowd buzzed with energy. We need petitions, we need to organize a rally, spread the word. If we can show numbers, we can pressure Greg into listening. Lisa chimed in, and we can use social media. Hashtags, posts, let us get this trending. Show him he can't push us down. We're Maplewood. The crowd roared in agreement, a wave of unity that rolled through the cafe. Clara felt her heart swell. This was what she had hoped for. This was the power of connection, the strength of solidarity. But just as the moment felt triumphant, her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar urgency. She glanced at the screen, her stomach twisting. It was a message from Mike. Clara, I just heard something, you need to come back to the store. Now. Something was wrong. The joy and excitement of the meeting felt fragile, like glass teetering on the edge, ready to shatter. Clara turned to the group, her voice barely more than a whisper. I need to leave. Something's happening at work. But we'll pick this up later. We have to stay strong, okay? As she dashed out of the cafe, a single thought consumed her. What if Greg had made his move already? What awaited her at the store could change everything. Was the rallying cry of Maplewood enough to face the storm? Would they still stand tall when the winds grew fierce? Clara sprinted through the streets, her heart racing as the vibrant sounds of Maplewood faded behind her. The anticipation and hope from the cafe felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by dread. What could Mike possibly mean? With every step, her mind ran wild, imagining the worst. As she approached the store, she noticed a small crowd forming outside. Whispered conversations pierced the air, laced with fear and confusion. She pushed through the gathering, her breaths coming in quick bursts. The heavy air was thick with anxiety. Clara. Mike's voice cut through the murmurs like a knife. He was standing by the entrance, his face ashen. You need to see this. With urgency, he beckoned her inside. The store felt different. The shelves, usually organized and inviting, now stood under the weight of uncertainty. Clara's eyes darted around, landing on Greg, who was pacing behind the counter. His expression twisted in anger and frustration, as if he were a storm ready to break. What happened? Clara asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mike's face was tense. The company's been cutting corners, Clara. Greg decided to eliminate a few positions to save costs. And he's trying to do it quietly, without anyone knowing until it's too late. Clara's chest tightened. What do you mean, who is getting cut? People we know. Long-time employees. They found out just as customers arrived. It's chaos out there. He gestured towards the exit, where the small crowd had swelled, customers having gathered to discuss the unexpected news. Some faces were familiar fellow workers who had been friends for years. Clara's heart sank as she recognized their anxiety mirrored in her own. We can't let this happen. She exclaimed, determination flooding back. We have to tell everyone. We need to show Greg he's crossing a line. What can we do? Mike asked, his eyes searching hers for answers. Clara looked around the store. We're all here, together. If we can just confront him, maybe we can stand strong. The entire town is counting on us. Before she knew it, Clara was stepping forward, her voice rising above the gathered crowd. Everyone. We have a choice here. Are we going to let Greg make decisions for us? Decisions that affect our lives, our families. We already united in the cafe. We can do it again. The crowd began to murmur, their fear transforming into uncertainty, then into a flicker of resolve. Clara could feel it take hold, a wave of determination sweeping across the room. Let us get a petition going. We can write letters, organize a meeting. We need to show that we are not just employees, we are a community. Each phrase ignited sparks of hope throughout the crowd. Just as she finished, Greg interrupted, his voice dripping with disdain. "This is nonsense, Clara. You think you can challenge me? You're playing with fire." The words hung ominously in the air, but Clara felt strength surge in her chest. Fire? Maybe. But it's the kind of fire that ignites change. "We're not afraid of you." A storm of agreement erupted. People started chanting, their voices synchronized in a powerful harmony. "We are Maplewood. We are Maplewood." As the chant grew louder, Clara felt her spirit soar. They could do this. They could push back against the tide, but then, in that moment of unity, Clara caught Greg's gaze. There was something chilling in his expression and unsettling calm that made her stomach churn. He wasn't done yet. "Very well, Clara," he sneered, "let us see how far your little rebellion really goes." With that, he turned away, leaving Clara's heart racing with both determination and dread. What had Greg planned? Was this truly just the beginning of a larger battle? She took a deep breath, knowing this was only the start. The fight for Maplewood was coming, and it would take every ounce of strength they had. Little did she know, the next blow would come when she least expected it. The crowd's chants echoed in Clara's ears, a chorus of unwavering support mingled with her rising anxiety. As Greg retreated, his words lingered like a storm cloud threatening a downpour. She turned back to the group, their energy palpable, and yet a creeping dread twisted her stomach. What exactly had she set in motion? "Let us not stop here," Clara shouted, her voice ringing with urgency. "We have each other's backs. We can draft that petition tonight, but we need to make our voices heard right away. Who's with me?" A wave of hands shot up, faces brightening as a mix of shock and hope flared between them. They had felt powerless before, now, there was a flicker of unified strength. "Okay, let us break into groups. We'll need people to write, to speak with others. We can even set up a meeting tomorrow where the entire community can weigh in." Clara's heart raced as she plotted their course of action. Just then, Mike stepped forward. "And what about Greg? We can't ignore that he's already making moves behind the scenes. We need to confront him directly, too. Otherwise, all this could just blow over, and we have nothing to show for it." Clara nodded, a bolt of determination surging through her. "You're right. We can't back down. We have to stand firm." As the crowd dispersed into smaller clusters, Clara felt a sense of urgency. The night had settled over Maplewood, wrapping the town in an inky blanket. Together, they typed furiously on their phones, gathering names and ideas, planning their next steps. Every ping of a new name added to the petition sent a jolt of adrenaline through Clara. But shadows loomed. Every time she heard a footstep behind her, her heart skipped. Would Greg return to put an end to their newfound momentum? Would he try to intimidate them, like he had before? Clara shuddered at the thought. Hours passed, and as the group slowly began to disperse, a figure emerged from the darkness behind the store. Clara squinted, her heart thudding louder. It was Greg, stealthy and imposing, suited in crisp lines that seemed to echo his attitude. He walked with deliberate intent toward the dim light flooding from the entrance. "Clara," he called, his voice smooth yet icy, "we need to talk." She froze, her pulse quickening. This was it. This was the moment that would determine whether their passion ignited change, or simply sparked a fire that Greg could easily extinguish. "Talk," she echoed, forcing herself to maintain a steady voice. "Or threaten. Is this your game?" He stepped closer, his smile unsettling. "You misunderstand. I'm not here to intimidate. I admire your passion. This little uprising of yours, it's amusing." Clara clenched her fists. He couldn't be serious. "Amusing? You're ruining lives, Greg. You think this is a joke?" Greg leaned against the wall casually, cruelty woven into his charm. "Oh, but it can be a game for me. You see, Clara, I control the narrative here." The weight of his words crushed the air from Clara's lungs. He had power more than she dared to imagine, and he wasn't shy about wielding it. But she would never show him fear. "Control?" She shot back, chin raised defiantly. "You underestimate the strength of our community." "Strength? What strength?" "You're just a bunch of frightened workers afraid of losing your jobs," he smirked. Just then, a soft but firm voice broke through the tension. It was one of Clara's co-workers, Sarah, stepping up beside her. "No, Greg. You're wrong. We're tired of being scared. We will not be silent anymore." Others began to step forward, a wall of solidarity forming beside Clara. "See?" Greg's demeanor faltered, the smug mask slipping. "This isn't a friendly chat. The longer you prolong this, the worse it will be for you all." Clara could sense at the undeniable fierce will of a community that wouldn't back down. "Then bring it on." "We're not going anywhere," Clara declared, feeling the fire of her convictions blaze bright. Greg's face twisted into a sneer, revealing a flicker of concern beneath. "Is that so? Be careful what you wish for, Clara." With one last share of tension-filled glares, he turned on his heel and left, leaving Clara breathless with a mix of fear and exhilaration. "Did you see that?" Mike breathed, drawing closer with wide eyes. He's rattled. "That's only the beginning," Clara replied, determination swirling in her veins. "This fight is far from over." A deep exhale escaped her lips, but as night settled deep over Maplewood, the weight of uncertainty lingered. What would Greg do next? And how far was she willing to go to protect the people she cared about? As she glanced back at her friends, Clara felt hope surge within her again, but it was now mixed with the understanding that the stakes had grown ever higher. "Tomorrow is a new day," she whispered, a flicker of resolve lighting her heart. "And we're ready." But little did they know, another surprise awaited them at dawn, one that could change everything. The sun crested over Maplewood, its warm rays piercing through the lingering chill of night. Clara felt a knot of tension coiling tighter within her as she paced the kitchen, the scent of brewed coffee filling the air. Today was not just any ordinary day. It was a day when everything could shift, when ordinary people could make waves of change. As she sipped her coffee, she could almost feel the energy of her friends buzzing and bouncing beyond the window. "Clara!" Sarah called from the living room, dragging her back to reality. "Are you ready? We have to get to the meeting early and set up the chairs." "Coming!" Clara shouted. She brushed a few stray curls from her face and took a deep breath, a mixture of excitement and trepidation swirling inside her. As she grabbed her jacket, a thought slipped into her mind: what would Greg do? She shuddered but pushed the fear aside. "I won't let him win," she murmured to herself. The gathering at the town hall was buzzing with chatter. Clara stepped inside, the hum of her friends' voices wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. She caught sight of Mike, who waved her over with intensity, lighting his eyes. "They got the petition printed. It looks amazing." Clara's heart soared. "That's incredible. Let us get things rolling." They set to work arranging flyers, positioning banners, and preparing everything for the influx of community members who were ready to make their voices heard. Every minute that passed, the energy in the hall surged. People from all walks of life, cashiers, teachers, mechanics, filled the room, breathing life into the cause that united them. Clara moved through the crowd, exchanging nods and smiles, feeling a profound weight lift off her shoulders. Then, as the clock struck 10, Clara stepped up to the podium, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. A hush fell over the crowd, all eyes trained on her. She looked out at the faces, an amalgamation of support and determination, and took a deep breath. "Thank you all for coming today," she said, her voice firm. "We are here to stand up for our rights, for our families, for each other. Greg has manipulated our fear for too long. No more. We have to be the voice that rises above intimidation." Cheers erupted, the sound echoing against the town hall walls. Clara felt a wave of energy wash over her, infusing her with strength. As Sarah began to detail the points of their petition, Clara's eyes darted around the room. Every moment was electric until she noticed a figure loitering near the entrance. Greg, arms crossed, watching like a hawk, his expression unreadable. Confusion fluttered in her stomach. Had he come to intervene? Or was he merely observing? Suddenly, the door burst open wider, and a hush fell again as Mayor Johnson strode in, followed by a few townspeople. "We received your message," she announced. "We're ready to listen." The collective gasp that arose filled the air with hope. Clara felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting into something solid. Here was an opportunity, a chance to confront their fears. "Mayor Johnson, it's time we speak up against Greg and his tactics. We need transparency, we need fairness, and we need a say in this community." The murmur of agreement swelled, punctuated by a few bold voices echoing Clara's sentiments. Clara's heart raced. She exchanged glances with Sarah and Mike. They couldn't let this chance slip away, but before anyone said another word, Greg pushed through the crowd, his demeanor cloaked in confidence and menace. "I'm afraid we're not here to entertain threats," he countered smoothly, eyes alight with defensive fury. "You misunderstand the issue here." Clara took a bold step forward. "No, Greg. You're the one who has misunderstood us for too long." The room trembled with tension. She felt the crowd lean in, the community bracing itself for what would come next. "Enough of this charade," he sneered, his voice low. "You think your little petition will change anything? Look around, there's no strength here. Just noise." The din of 1,000 hearts beat in unison against his taunts, a fierce heartbeat that rattled the walls. Clara's voice quaked with emotion. "We are not just noise. We are a voice. And that voice is louder than you think." Greg's eyes flashed with something darker, more volatile than before. "Let us see how well you play this game," he snapped, storming toward the door and throwing one last look back that could cut glass. Clara sagged slightly but remained resolute. A storm was brewing, but this time, they were ready for it. As the meeting continued, unwavering conversations ignited, Clara's mind raced. There was so much at stake now. But despite Greg's threats, she felt powerful, emboldened by everyone around her who dared to stand up and fight. That a loud clap of thunder echoed in the distance, interrupting her thoughts as the skies darkened overhead. "What if he has more tricks up his sleeve?" she whispered to Mike, worry creeping back in, but just as the question left her lips, an unexpected voice called out from the back. "We have to be ready for any surprises he might throw at us. We need to unite, not just here but for everything coming." Clara turned, her heart pounding as realization struck. They were not just fighting for their jobs, they were fighting for a future, for a community. And whatever Greg had planned next, they needed to be prepared. "Hold tight, everyone. Today marks the beginning of something bigger than we ever imagined," Clara urged, determined. But as she looked toward the gathering cloud, she couldn't shake the fear that something unforeseen was lurking just beyond the horizon. The air grew electric with anticipation as Clara stood at the podium, her resolve crystallizing. She took a moment to scan the crowd, feeling the weight of their eyes, each one filled with a mix of hope and determination. This was at the moment they could change everything. The room was alive with whispers of solidarity and the echo of footsteps as more people filed in, each one bringing a renewed sense of purpose. "Let us talk about what we really want for Maplewood," Clara said, her heart racing as she continued. "We need a community where our children can thrive, where our opinions matter, and where we can walk these streets without fear." The crowd erupted in cheers, their energy surging. Clara felt it fuel her. She smiled at Sarah, who was nodding enthusiastically, and at Mike, who was clapping along with the rhythm of the moment. They weren't just names on a petition, they were families, friends, neighbors, the very fabric of Maplewood. But then, like a storm cloud blocking the sun, Greg's presence hovered at the periphery of her thoughts. What if he had something more insidious planned? As if reading her mind, a fellow attendee yelled from the back, "What's Greg's real agenda, anyway?" Clara seized this opportunity. "Exactly. We deserve to know the truth. We have the right to question decisions that affect our lives." With each sentence, her voice grew steadier, as if the conviction in her words was bolstering her confidence. Suddenly, she remembered Greg's sneer, the way he belittled their unity. "Let him think we're just noise, let him underestimate what happens when we stand together." Clara cried, and the room roared back with agreement. Someone near the front shouted, "What are we waiting for?" With that, Clara felt the crowd's energy shift into something fierce, a storm brewing not just in the sky but in the spirit of the people of Maplewood. Clara thought about everything they stood to lose but also everything they stood to gain. As she spoke, urging everyone to share their personal stories, the tension lifted and transformed into camaraderie. Each voice added to the tapestry of their collective struggle, pulling people in from the edges and forging connections. A mother spoke about her child's education being denied for arbitrary reasons. An elderly man shared memories of when the town thrived due to the people's choices before Greg's influence suffocated it. The thunder outside was no longer just a foreboding sign, it felt like a rallying cry, a reminder of the storms they had weathered before. Clara felt her heart swell. Here they were, not just fighting against Greg but fighting for themselves, for their right to be heard, to belong somewhere. But amid the rising energy, Clara noticed Greg inching back into the room, this time with a couple of his own allies. Her heart sank. "Don't lose focus," she whispered to Mike, who caught her eye and nodded gravely. The air grew thick with tension as Greg took center stage, eyeing the crowd with a mix of contempt and something else, fear. Perhaps he realized just how united they had become. "Is this how you think it's going to work? Uprooting the very foundations that have kept Maplewood stable?" Greg's voice dripped with sarcasm, but Clara detected a quiver of doubt. The crowd's response was immediate, a chorus of angry shouts, rising as a single entity. Clara could feel the ground under her shift. Doubt crackled in the air, but beneath that, a current of something stronger, hope. Stability is built on collaboration, not fear. Clara shouted back, her words slicing through his arrogance. "We will not be intimidated by your threats, Greg. We demand a dialogue, not a dictatorship." The crowd erupted in agreement again, and Clara felt something inside her ignite. The stakes were rising higher, and it was more than just a petty battle now, it was about the future of their community. But just as victory seemed in reach, Greg's lips curled into a smirk, one that sent a chill down her spine. "You think this is about your petty little meeting? I warn you, there are consequences for making enemies of those in power." Clara felt the cold grip of fear creep back in, but she refused to let it control her. "So be it," she said, her heart hammering in determination. "If standing up against you means being an enemy, we'll embrace it." The tension cracked like thunder, each heartbeat echoing in the room. Clara's pulse raced as she turned to the crowd. What would happen next? Did they have the strength to fight this battle, or was this merely the beginning of something much bigger? In that charged moment, as both sides braced for battle, Clara wondered how deep the roots of their community ran. And as Greg glared from the front, she felt that storm inch closer one way or another. They were all about to be caught in its wrath. With a flicker of doubt, she whispered, "What happens when the storm hits?" Clara's heart pounded like a distant drum, each beat reminding her of the crowd's weighty expectation. She scanned their faces, seeing determination in every set of eyes, kindled by fear but fueled by hope. They were ready to confront the storm together, but now, more than ever, the stakes felt real. Greg's smirk deepened as he leaned closer to the microphone. "You think you can just demand change? This town thrives under my leadership. And mark my words, those who oppose me will regret it." His voice dripped with arrogance, yet the crowd's chants rose and clashed with his words like a tidal wave against a crumbling wall. "Regret? Or rise?" Clara shouted back, pushing the tremor in her voice aside. Greg flinched for a moment, revealing just how effective her words had become. That moment of hesitation empowered her. Listen. She said, her voice ringing clear like a bell cutting through chaos. We won't be afraid to speak our truth. This is our town, our voices. The atmosphere crackled with energy. Every cheer, every voice raised, filled the room with a sense of unity Clara hadn't felt before. The storm outside mirrored their rising emotions, a tempest of frustration seeking release. Clara drew strength from the storm's fury, channeling it into her speech. Maplewood deserves transparency. We deserve a leader who listens to us. Clara pressed on, her expression fierce. If Greg cannot hear the cries of the people, then he has lost the right to represent us. The crowd roared, their collective passion sweeping through the room like wildfire. Clara could see the spark of rebellion igniting in even the quietest corners, and it energized her, yet, an unsettling thought nagged at her: what if Greg wasn't just a man? What if he was the embodiment of an entire system that thrived on silence? She couldn't let fear rule their hearts, nor could she shrink from the formidable challenge before them. Greg recovered quickly. You want change? Fine. He spat, his tone venomous. But change comes at a cost. You can either stay here, united in your ignorance, or face the consequences of betrayal. Gaze fixed on him, Clara would not yield. You call it betrayal, I call it courage. We will not be cowered into submission. As she finished, a collective gasp rippled through the audience. Clara saw Sarah gripping the arm of a neighbor, her fear palpable, but determination shined in her eyes. It was more than just words now, it was a movement. Clara felt the thrill of the moment surge through her, then Greg spoke again, this time more sinister. You foolish people think this is just about Maplewood? Don't kid yourselves. Others are watching now, and they won't hesitate to strike. At these words, Clara fought a surge of panic. What could this mean? Would Greg's threats extend beyond their community? She wanted to scream that they wouldn't be intimidated, but uncertainty settled like a weight in her gut. Enough. A voice boomed from the back, a familiar presence rising as Mike stepped forward, breathing heavily. Our strength lies in transparency and unity. Greg's threats mean nothing if we stand together. The crowd buzzed with murmurs of encouragement. Clara felt hope pierce the tension, as if she could reach out and grasp it. Together with Mike, they stood at the forefront of something monumental. The room's energy shifted like the winds before a storm, loud, powerful, and unyielding. But Clara still felt the chill of Greg's threats press against her. Stand strong. Clara urged, locking eyes with as many faces as she could. Today, we take the first step towards a future we can shape. Can we commit to standing together? Yes. The crowd roared in unison, each voice building momentum and strength. But just then, a loud crash echoed from the entrance, and everyone turned as the doors swung open. A group of strangers stepped in, their intentions unclear, but Clara sensed danger in their arrival. What would this mean for their cause? As the air thickened with tension again, Clara took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever would come next. The storm was closing in, but would it bring destruction or renewal? Who are they? Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Clara looked to the crowd, feeling the ripples of uncertainty return. We will find out together, she replied, her voice steadying with determination. The real battle was just beginning, and she had to be ready. Clara's heart raced as the strangers approached, their presence a stark reminder that the fight for Maplewood was far from over. She could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. But she wouldn't let fear steal her resolve. Turning to her friends, she whispered, stay close. We face this together. The lead figure stepped forward, tall and imposing, with a sharp suit that gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Clara bit her lip but held her ground. Who are you? She demanded, her voice steady despite her unease. Let's just say we're from corporate, the stranger replied, a smirk playing at the edges of his lips. We heard about your little uprising, and it seems you've caught the attention of the higher-ups. We're here to remind you who really holds the power. Gasps echoed through the room, and Clara felt her stomach drop. They had come to silence them. But then she heard Mike's firm voice behind her. We are not afraid of threats. We are standing up for ourselves. The stranger's smirk wavered, and Clara seized the moment. This isn't just about our jobs anymore. It's about our community. She shouted, her voice gaining strength. You can't crush our spirit. We are Maplewood, and we will fight back. The crowd surged with energy, voices rising as people joined in Clara's rallying cry. We are Maplewood. The mantra echoed off the walls, swelling into a wave of defiance that pushed back against the looming threat. Clara looked around. Fear was still there, but courage bloomed in the faces of her neighbors, a fierce conviction kindled in their eyes. The lead stranger glanced back at his companions, and Clara saw their uncertainty flicker. You think you can win this? He sneered. The board will hear about this. Consequences will be dire. And we will be ready. Clara replied, her heart pounding in her chest as fire ignited within her. We've already put our names on the line. We want to go back to silence. The tension in the room reached a boiling point, the combined energy of the crowd creating a palpable force, strong and united. The strangers hesitated, their confidence wading into the uncertainty of a community awakened, fueled by a shared purpose. Enough, the lead stranger finally shouted. This is your last chance to walk away peacefully. You have no idea how much power we can wield. Clara stepped farther forward, the people behind her forming an unyielding barrier of support. Maybe you don't realize that the true power lies in our hands. We are the backbone of this town. Without us, there's nothing for you to control. Her voice cracked with passion, as she caught her mother's proud gaze from the back. With every heartbeat, Clara felt courage surge through her, a tidal wave of hope. The strangers looked unnerved as the crowd erupted in cheers, a resounding message that they wouldn't waver. We are Maplewood. They chanted. Each repetition emboldened Clara more. Fine, the lead stranger spat, frustration evident in his voice. You want to play this game? The board will have its say. Just know that when the dust settles, you'll be the ones left holding the bag. With one final glare, the group turned and stormed out, the tension diffusing in their wake. Clara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her legs trembling but alive with triumph. Did you see that? Mike exclaimed, grinning ear to ear. They backed down. Clara felt the room erupt with excitement, hands clapped and hugs sprang up like wildflowers, blooming in the aftermath of a storm. But Clara knew this was just the beginning. Let us not stop now, she called over the din, heart racing. We need to keep this momentum. If they come back, we'll be ready. We'll organize, we'll spread the word, and we'll make them hear us. As she spoke, Clara felt a new spirit rising among her friends and neighbors. They were no longer just workers banding together, they were a community with a shared voice, instilled with hope and determination. Later, as they gathered in the fading twilight, Clara caught sight of her mother, tears streaming down her cheeks. You inspired us. All, sweetie, her mom said, pulling her into a warm embrace. You've sparked something beyond just a petition. You've ignited a fire in this town. Clara pulled back, her heart swelling with pride. We're going to fight for the future we deserve. And as the sun set over Maplewood, casting a golden hue across the streets, Clara felt something blossom within her, a vibrant energy, united and strong. She may have rumbled with fear in the face of uncertainty, but with her community beside her, she was ready to face whatever storm lay ahead. Together, they would write a new chapter for Maplewood. Now, the real battle began. You need to subscribe now to embrace the change. This is the moment to show your support for these inspiring stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the movement alive. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this powerful ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means everything.